All right, guys, so we've looked at the different data types, the primitive types versus the reference types or objects. We've looked at conversion and coercion and operators. What I want to look at now is individual data types and just certain things we can do. So in this video, I want to look at strings. So we'll talk about concatenation a little bit more, as well as template literals, which are really, really helpful, and also some of the different methods that we can use on a string. Now, like I said in a past video, strings are primitive. However, if we use a method like, let's say, toUpperCase on a string, which is primitive, JavaScript puts a wrapper around it and makes it a string object. So in that case, we can use methods. All right, so let's start off here by initializing a variable. I'm just going to say let x because I'm going to do a lot of output. So let's say console log x. And then we'll start off here with concatenation, which we've already gone over. We basically have our string. Actually, you know what I'll do is let's do like a sentence. We'll say hello, my name is, and then I want to put a variable, and I'll set those variables here. Let's say name equals John or whatever you'd like, and then let's say const age equals 30. Now here I want to use the name variable, so what I would do is concatenate name, and you don't want to put quotes around this because it's a variable, and then we want to concatenate back into a string. And never mind this strike through, it's just because the window object has a deprecated property of name, but it doesn't concern us. And then I want to say, and so my name is John and I am space concatenate on the age plus, and then let's do another space here in the quotes and years old. So that is, you know, kind of a pain in the ass. But if I save, we say, hello, my name is John and I am 30 years old. If we change this to, let's say, 31 and save, obviously that's going to output. Now, I want to show you how to do this same thing using something called template literals, also called template strings. So I'm going to take x and just overwrite what we just did, and I'm going to use backticks this time. Okay, so backticks are used for template literals, not quotes. And then we can do the same thing. We'll say, hello, my name is. Now, instead of having to, you know, put a space here and then concatenate here, what we'll do is use this syntax, a money sign and then curly braces. And then in here, I can put my variable. If I save that, you'll see it says, hello, my name is John. Now, this isn't just for variables, this syntax, it's for any JavaScript expression. In fact, I could just do like 1 + 1, and it'll evaluate it to 2. So we can essentially write our JavaScript in here. So I just wanted to say name, and then I'm going to just space, and then and I am. I want to put my age here. So again, I'm going to use this syntax and say 31 years old, and you can see that that output's fine. So this, to me at least, is much, much easier and cleaner than this. So you'll be using template literals quite a bit. Now, template literals didn't come into JavaScript until 2015. It was the ES 2015 or ES6 update was where template literals were introduced. Before that, you would have to do this. So now what I want to do is look at properties and methods, or let's say string properties and methods. So if I say, let's say x equals and then hello world. Actually, I'm going to give this a different variable. Let's say const s equals hello world. So we have a string of hello world, and if I want to, let's say, get the length, there's a length property that we can use for strings. So I'm going to say x equals and then s, which is our string, and then dot length. Now, since it's a property, we don't add the parentheses. Methods use the parentheses because methods are functions. Properties are more like attributes. So if I save that, you'll see we get 11. Now, as I said earlier, the strings are primitive, but we can use properties and methods on them because of the wrapper that JavaScript gives it when we run these properties and methods. So essentially what JavaScript does behind the scenes, let me just show you real quick. If we were to do, let's say, x equals type of, and then we'll do type of s, and and let's just comment that out because that'll overwrite it. So we get string, right? But what the wrapper does when we run a property or method is it basically says new string, and it creates this string object. Now if I save, you'll see I get object. Okay, and I'll just leave it like that. You can leave it with just quotes hello world, or you can use this new string, but I'm just trying to let you know what happens kind of behind the scenes when we use a method or a property. And we can also access the individual characters. So for instance, if I say, let's go down here, if I say x equals and then s, I can use this syntax, and it starts at 0 just like an array. If I save that, you'll see I get H. I get the first character. If I do 1, I get E, so I get the second character, and so on. Okay, and I'll just put a comment here. We'll say access value by key. So we have numbered keys. Now, another thing I want to show you, and we'll get much more into this later with object-oriented programming, is objects have what's called a prototype, and that's where the methods are stored. So if I do x equals, and the way we access the prototype is _proto_, and I'm setting that to x. So I'm going to save and show you what we get here. So if we look down here, we have all these different methods. So for instance, we have 2 uppercase, 2 lowercase, we have split, substring, all these different methods that we can use with strings. And I'm going to show you some of them, not all of them. I'll show you some of them now, some of them later, and some you'll never use, which I probably won't get to. But you can see all of these different methods that are available in the prototype. So, and if we console log s and I save that, if we look down here, you'll see prototype right here, which has the same thing. So this is the same thing as this. All right, and it even shows you the different keys, the different numbered keys. But let's put that back to x, and now we're going to look at some of these properties. So if we want to change the case, we could do x equals, let's say, our string, and then we'll do 2 uppercase, which is a method, so of course we need our parentheses. If I save that, we get hello world in all uppercase. I'm actually going to comment that down, and we also have 2 lowercase. Okay, so that will change the case. There isn't a method that will make like the first letter of each word uppercase, but we can do that in JavaScript. There's no single method to do it. I'll show you that in a little bit. So the next one is char at, and that will return the character at the specified index. So if I say x equals s dot char at, and let's say we want to get the first character, that would be 0. If I save that, that gives us h, which is essentially the same as what we did up here, where we were accessing by the key. So this will give us the same as this. Now, if we want to know the index of a specific character, so kind of the inverse of this, we could say x equals s, and we can use index of. So if we say index of, and let's say we want the index of h. If I save that, we get 0. Let's say e. Now there's more than one e. What this will do is give us the first e, which is the number 1 index, which is the second character. So this right here, because it's 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. If we put, let's say d, that will give us 10, which is the last index. So the next one is substring, which will search a string for a specified value. So let me just show you. If we do s dot and then substring, and then this will take in 2 indexes. So let's say we want to get from 0 to 4. If I save that, we get hell. Because if we look at hello world, and by the way, this could be just a string, just the quotes hello world. If I change this s to that and save, we get the same thing. But I just did that to show you basically how to turn a string into a string object. So we get hell because it's 0, 1, 2, 3, and then it ends at 4. All right, if we want to get hello, then it would be 0 to 5. Save that, we get hello. And we don't have to start from 0. If I do 1 and save, we get hello, hello governor. If we do 2 to 5, we get LLO. All right, so you can get any, it's a substring. It's just basically a string inside of a string. And another thing we could do is run substring with a single argument, let's say 7. If I save that, we get ORLD. So what this did is it started at 7, and then it just gets the rest of the string. All right, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it started here, O is 7, and then just went to the end. If I put a bunch of stuff on the end of this and save, it's going to add that to it. Now, the next one I want to show you is slice, which is very similar to substring. In fact, I'm going to just copy this, and we know that 0 to 4 will give us, actually let's do 0 to 5, that'll be hello. And actually I'll just save it, you'll see it get hello with substring, and if we do slice, we also get hello. Now, there's a few differences. One of them is that with slice, we can start from the end with negative numbers. So for instance, if I do, let's start, we know that hello world altogether is 10, right? It's 10 characters, or 0 through 10, I should say. And if we want to start at the beginning using negative, we could do negative 11. So if I do that, and then, actually if I just do that, we'll get hello world, because it starts at the beginning, negative 11, all the way to the end. Now if I want to get the word hello, we could do, see, that would be negative 10, 9, 8, 7, I think negative 6 should give us, so if we save that, yeah, so now we get hello. So we're basically just starting from the end. Yeah, so I mean, you could use substring or slice interchangeably in a lot of different situations. Another one that I want to show you is trim. So let's say s.trim, and what this does is it trims the white space. So what I'm going to do is set, let's just do this, we'll say hello world, but I'm going to add, you know, a bunch of white space here. And if I were to just do that, you'll see it adds the white space here to the beginning. But if I were to use trim and say x equals x dot trim and save, it gets rid of that white space. So that can be pretty helpful. Next, let's look at replace. So I'm going to say x equals, and let's set, so we'll take string, and then we want to replace. And let's say we want to set the word world to, I don't know, John. So what we could do is search for a string within a string. That's going to be the first argument. So we're going to search for world. And then the second is what we want to replace it with. So let's say John. If I save that, we console log x. Now we get hello, John. Now let's look at includes, which will return true or false if a string is found within that string. So if I say s.includes, and we want to, let's say we want to find hello. If I save that, we're going to get true because this is found within that s string. If I do hell, that's going to be true. If I do hell e or hell I save that, that's going to be false because this string is not found, it's not included in the hello world string. Okay, so that'll return true or false. And then if we want to return the primitive value of a variable, so let's say x equals s dot, we can use value of, and if I save that, we're just going to get the hello world. Okay, even if we were to do this up here. So this is a string object, right? If we console log s, we get the string, which is an object. If we did type of s, it'd show object. But if we want to get the true primitive of that, which is a string, we would use value of. And then the last one I want to show you is split, which have used quite a bit. It'll split a string into an array, and it takes in a separator as an argument. So let's say s dot split, and then if I just do that on its own, it'll just give me an array with the entire string inside of it. Now let's say we want to split by the space because it's hello space world. Then we would pass in here a space, and now you'll see I have an array with 2 strings. And I know we haven't really gone over arrays yet, but we get an array with 2 strings. Okay, if I wanted to split every character into an array item, then I would just put just quotes. If I do that, now we have an array with 11 items, and each one is each character. Okay, so that's split. Now, there's a lot more methods, so you can see here, and I'm going to go over some of these in future videos. Some of them I won't because they're not really used that much, but of course you can experiment on your own as well. So I hope that this helped you understand some of the things we can do with strings. Now in the next video, I'm actually going to give you guys a challenge based on the stuff we've already learned.